building web application with Joomla. Why we are talking to you about this is because from our experience, this is what we are trying to do. With Oana, we are building a web application to manage events online. So we have put down some really basic at some point from our experience that what you have to take care about, what you can do and what you cannot do with Joomla, and if you have to solve the problem, how, if there are any solution, how you can go in that direction. At some point to remember when you're dealing with web applications. So first thing is that you have really to focus on the problem you are trying to solve, because building a web application is not about the number of features. It's just to solve really a problem. And as we can see, classic site provides content. I mean, a web app provides functionality, provides service to the user. So it's not just about menus, but it's more about workflows. So and a lot of custom code. That's one thing. Building. I've heard a lot of people that try to build web apps using Joomla and extensions that they found. Well, you can do it, but you won't never get to such a level, because if you have to interact with them or put them together, it gets messy. For example, the web service. I don't know if there is any of you that was in our private alpha one that we have online, that was Oana, was about 22 custom extensions made by us. That they were all Nuku based and they were all talking to each other, because we try to modularize everything. That's also something really important. Okay, what Joomla provides, it's user management, basic functionality, menu system, templates, module management, and caching. For the user management, this is something we've seen also. Where was it? The Nuku showcase, Roma, that everybody has these issues with registration workflows. The normal, what does Joomla do is send you a confirmation link, and then you have to activate, and this is something you don't want for a web application, because if for example in our case, if we are creating an event and we want people to arrive at your event and just attend or register to it, we don't want them to create an account, having to confirm the account and then sign in, and because you lose traction. You have to really have a web app have to have the lowest friction possible for accessing the service. So just straight in, that's something you can easily do, because you have really to hack few line of code that will make people, straight away log in Joomla while they work on the application itself. For example, what we are doing is that you arrive on Oana and say create an event. It's just start creating an event and then you're logging in. Framework is of course important when you build web applications. Rapid framework, it's even more important, because you need to be able to really quickly adjust to changement or deploy some new things to adjust about what was wrong. So why when we decided to build what we are doing, we went into Joomla, was because there was also Nuku that was working with it, and for us was something really important to have REST APIs capability and all this kind of thing. That's why we went with Nuku. There was no choice. Joomla for us as a company also permitted to take some of the code we are doing for the web service and put that in an extension for Joomla to manage events. and this is some kind of business model that we are trying to figure out for the company, because building a web service, it's really huge project, and it takes a lot of time, needs a lot of money, a lot of resources. Sorry. Build to scale. So, of course, you need to be prepared to scale. There are some easy scaling solutions that you can start off, like Rackspace work pretty well. Amazon also, you have PHP Fog. There are many solutions out there. You don't have to have such a huge system and environment from beginning, but at least a little bit that can give you some space in the beginning. It's better instead it's better to start with the right foot and have some space to grow. That's something important, but don't overdo it, because you won't grow like that. But we had a problem because when we did the first private alpha, we did about less than a month period testing. We invited a little bit less than 60 people, and in 3 weeks we had 37,000 people mapped to the system, and so we have to close it because we didn't have the right environment for this, and so we have to go back, because in 3 weeks time that was a lot of things of connections. Yeah. Build your system so you can easily move things around if needed. That's something we are trying to do as maximum as possible, so that's why we have built so many extensions to make it work, because we can just replace things in it, and we don't make a full code-based things. But for example, we have an inviter system that can sneak into your Facebook connection or Twitter connection. This is just an extension, and the plugin to where you can interconnect it are even plugin of the extension. And this is just the invite button you can see on the web app. It's a complete component itself. You can use Amazon, for example, as S3 storage to store your file, for example, like avatar or people submitted file. Different servers, so you can do a little cluster. For example, you can have database running on one server, code base on others, and you can make things a little bit more powerful and don't overthrow resources. APIs. Use APIs if there is a trusted service that exposes APIs. That's try to use it as much as you can, but not overdo it again, because APIs change really quickly, and are not dependent by you. So you have to really take care about how can we substitute this service with another one. If I don't build our whole core solution on just that API, because if they close or they change APIs, you are screwed. So look for webhooks, really important. There are so many services that they say, yeah, we have strong API, RESTful APIs, blah 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 blah, and in the end you find that they don't have webhooks, so they're useless if you really want to integrate them. For example, Eventbrite, we say, yeah, Eventbrite could be good to integrate it for the ticketing system in our web service, but Eventbrite APIs don't have a webhook, so they are pointless. You cannot, for example, if you say you can put your ticket on your web page through Eventbrite, but if people buy them and you don't have a webhook, you cannot then bring them into the events afterward. So webhooks are important. I think Amiando have webhooks instead, but then there is other products. Of course, don't rely them on too much, and always look after what they change, because they always bring new things up that maybe you weren't available. For example, one thing is that they announced it quite a lot of time ago, but it's still not deployed, is the messaging API in Facebook. That's something we were really looking forward to use it. It's something that you can use to send message in your inbox message of Facebook, but they haven't they just announced it, yeah, but 1 year ago they deployed some feature, and you can use the API just in read mode so you can get the message and this kind of things, but you cannot post there. So if you want to use Facebook to post message, for the time being, the only thing you can do through APIs is post on Word. So, of course, always look about what you want to do with this integrated service, what you can do maybe in the future, and because if you start saying, we can do this and this and this, and then you are limited by the APIs, it doesn't make sense to start building something that doesn't work. Yeah, there can be some heavy work, like queues. About queues can be like if you have operation queues, for example, if you are crawling something from APIs like content or stuff like that, depending on what you are getting, it can take time. So you need to move that queues to another server. That's better things to do. So you can make queues on that machine, and when they are done, they are processed one by each one. For example, when we were doing the invitation system that was somehow crawling your Facebook graph, your Twitter graph, and this kind of things, we said we just move that to a queue to another machines. So you can just really quickly get your people names, and then in the background on the queue we can get avatars and link to their profiles and some other information that can be used for the service. If you get social on your web application, that's common things, but it's not always needed, I would say. Try to make the social layer in an application really well thought. So if sometimes it's okay to add some just like things or little share things, but the more you integrate it, the more powerful you can get if you go social. Use the social graph as really channel that can spread communication and can interact with each other. And again, make the overall user experience as low friction as possible. So try to avoid the recreation of profiles in another web service. Use profiles available if it does make the sense in your domain. For example, let people not just log in with Facebook, but maybe just link to their Facebook profile. So if I click on your avatar, and maybe I can be redirected there. Really try to think a little bit out of the box on managing profile and how people is managed on your system. Geolocalize, yeah, that's a suggestion. Geolocalize everything, well, everything you can, because the sooner you start geolocalizing data, and the sooner you start building your geolocalized data set and database, you're growing some knowledge and some data that can be really useful for maybe some new opportunities can arise. And if you don't start collect them straight from the beginning, then it's harder. So it's not that hard to geolocalize things, but you can geolocalize user pretty easily. You can geolocalize creation of things using some reverse geocoding or these kind of things. But it's important to try to collect the data. Again, use OAuth as much as you can for everything that is related to authentication. This is not only because in the client mode, so that you can allow people to have to authenticate with Facebook and Twitter or these kind of things, but that implemented that later you can also export and connect people through your APIs with OAuth. So this is important not just to use other APIs, but also to think about your own APIs. Because for a web app, the best marketing things you can do it's an API marketing. Because if you provide good, quick, and strong APIs, then people can build upon your system. It's like Twitter have a huge growth just because of APIs. There are so many clients, so many people that did huge things about that, like TweetDeck and a lot of things, just using the APIs. Twitter APIs are a bit on the wild side, you know. They are starting now to put in some restriction. Was really quite a far west last year, but again, I think the more you use APIs from others, the more you understand how to design your own. So it's also good practice. Again, when you just do registration, avoid forms, or at least long forms. I had a chat with Kevin from Eventbrite, because first when I was using their service, they didn't even have a registration. You just put your email, and I thought that maybe they were really full of spam and these kind of things, but say that the average was really low, because you don't spam there to create an event. Yeah, you can do blah 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 blah, but it's something not always happen. Workflow, yeah. Again, the Joomla workflow for register, it's something doesn't work good for creating web service. Best experience we have in our case, it's auto login upon registration, and put webhooks into your system as well. So if you can be then redirected and manage the workflow that is happening. For example, when you go on an event, I want to register there and stay on that event. I don't want to be brought somewhere else, otherwise I'm lost. You know, I'm here for your event. Why I'm coming up to another place? Yeah, you can use CAPTCHA to enter records for others. Invest in UI and UX a lot. Try really to find great people that can work with you if you don't have skill in your team to make a great user interface and user experience. It's in the user experience relies most of your ROI. So your return on investment can really grow, and a project can fail or not fail about user experience. Because everything is about user experience. So it's okay to have the features, to have the functionality, but you have to really design it well. We are really happy. We have a guy that was almost a Facebook guy that is working with us with the UI and user experience. But it's something that really try hard to really invest in this field for a web application. It's like when you do a website, you say, okay, let's spend for a template or something like that. In a web app, it's more deeper, because you don't have just buttons, but you have workflow, you have functionality, and all the functionality have to work good. And so strong and heavy use of JavaScript to make the full user experience as it should be. workflow. Plan your workflow in details. This is where we had the biggest surprise, where some kind of thing we didn't plan it that well, that we thought, okay, that's pretty easy, it should be work like that. And then when we started developing it, we say, okay, but in this case this can happen, and in this case, and the workflow that was below this little feature was huge. We really didn't think of it, and so it was like at the tip of the iceberg that was emerging there, and we say, okay, that's little feature goes there, but was huge workflow. So we tried to really put all the plan effort in workflow more than features. That's it. We try to be as quick as possible. To some point we can have some discussion. If you guys, maybe there are some other guys of you that are building web application. Nobody? Yeah, you can go back in. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you can do the plan. Test them. So go on a MVP, on a minimal viable product as possible, and have people using it. And from that you get what works and what doesn't. And that's the main things I would say, because when you're building web apps, in our case we are not doing it for a customer, for a client. Probably this is one of the difference. You can do website for client mainly, but web apps mainly are your core things in the company. Probably you can also outsource it. I don't know, but I would never outsource a web app like that. This was an event page that we were going to create on the system that we use for the private alpha one, and everything it's created out of the set, like the TripAdvisors, the Wikipedia links, and everything, because it's based on geolocation of the event. And then you have a social stream there that is based on node graph and story architecture. So everything that happened in the events, some kind of like Facebook feeds, these are stories that go through the graph, and then you can filter this on your dashboard. So if you are managing a lot of events, you can reply to topics and to discussion that are going on each event in one single place. How this is going to be, we are working right now. It's more or less something like that, in that direction. And where we have tried to we have tried to put down where you have latest news, you have discussion and blog. This is where the application are run. We have made a system where you can deploy apps in your event, because not every event is the same, so we have to find an easy way that you can say, I want to add discussion, or I want to add a live stream, I want to add Twitter stream or something like that. So you can add application there. And the basic things is that will remain on the event page. We are thinking about removing some more features from the actual state. Try to remove everything you can. When you cannot remove anything more, probably you have something in your hand. It's like if you are a curator of an exposition. You know, it's not what is on the wall that matters, it's what you choose not to put there. So really take away all the things. It could be nice, just one thing that with that one thing it works. We were really frustrated by the event industry, because we always create little events in our country, and we were really frustrated because Eventbrite was okay for registration, and then there was nothing added to it, you know, and you cannot build something on top. And we really said, when we went looking at the Eventbrite data, was interesting, because Eventbrite is an event registration and ticketing dispenser system, and they make money through tickets. That's their core business. They charge, and 65% of the events on Eventbrite are free events that they don't sell tickets. So people use Eventbrite to solve a problem that is not the one that Eventbrite has been so tough. So we say, what's behind that? Probably because people were just to create an event page quickly and fast enough to put it online. That is not a Facebook event page, and that is not another event page. It's not connected to just inside the system. And that's it. Then we always say that starting with a blank page, it's something that doesn't make sense for events, because if you think of the job, for example, the job this year is what it is because of the job the past year, and the next year is because what it grows in every year. But online, when you go and you start create an event, whichever application you use, you get blank page, and that's not how it works. You should be able to grow on it and just leverage it. So it's like some cloud of people around happening about an happening, a social gathering, that it really needs to grow. So not every time to start from zero. And everything that people say the last years. For example, if you use a Twitter application with the hashtag job10, everything that has been told has been cached and saved. Twitter deletes your tweet, for example, and there remain an history of the picture, of the slides, of everything, so you can go back and look what the past edition were all about. And also about keeping informed with the attendees, people that probably attended, many of, if not everybody that attended last year, I made it again this year. So probably those are the people that they are already in, and you don't have to spam them a lot. They are just in the event again. Yeah, go on. Okay. When you're building, that's a good question. When you're building a web application or a SaaS or something like that, you have to take into account that it takes time, that these things can generate at least some revenue before even going profit. So the the idea is that for us as a company is that first we will take some of the code we are working for the service and put it in extension just for events. We don't do anything, just for events, and this extension maybe can generate some income. That's one thing. That's also why we choose Joomla and Nuku, because there was this kind of possibility, because we are a completely bootstrapped company, and then you have to think about how the web application can generate revenue. There are many ways. There are really many ways. Depends what we're trying. Ticketing, of course, it's something you can do. You can like Eventbrite. That's classical way. You can go subscription model. You can go with advertiser. Depends what you target. If for example, if one will be probably more an event listing things like eventful or something like that, then probably advertising, because this is where people go to find and search for events, so you have a lot of traffic going on. If you go for a subscription, it means you can probably charge event organizer to organize their event on the platform. That can be, or you can go with tickets, fees. The idea we have is to do some business model using APIs. So to work with the APIs we use, trying to find service that we integrate that offer fees over APIs use. Okay. Wait. We did everything. We did even the commenting system, because in our case we needed to have a social architecture in place. That was the first things, the first problem. And commenting, a normal commenting system is not based on a social architecture. And if you wanted comments spread on your social graph, then you need a social architecture commenting system. So depend on the case. Probably if you don't have a deep social architecture behind it, you can go with that. But I would say, building up a commenting system is pretty quick. Because there were some guys who yesterday on our other presentation more about the social architecture. So maybe for you that interest, we started experimenting with Anaita last year at JAB. We presented with showcase a really first prototype of WANA using Anaita, and we developed an actor node based on their architecture that was for events. What mainly was the first actor node, apart from the user building the Anaita framework. And we went a little bit forward until we integrated Wufu for creating your own registration through events and this kind of things. And then we just were feeling the limits of Anaita for a web application that was our system. So we have to rewrite everything from scratch, from the architecture, from everything. So it's good to experiment and try what works and what not. and time. Prepare for a long journey because it takes really a lot of time, a lot of nights, a lot of sweat, everything. So it's an exciting ride.
Okay.